Hi, everyone. This is Cozy Corner, and I am Taylor. So make sure you subscribe to my channel for new content every week if you haven't already. We are still in our Sweet Oblivion series. At this point, I have done something very, very unforgettable, I must say. So his dad calls him and they have this conversation. He was like, well, she don't need to be doing this outside the house. Whatever y'all got going on, y'all need to work that out and all this different stuff. And so at that point, I was kind of like down with the whole situation because I'm like, if you could be so disrespectful to throw that at me and not even open up to have a conversation as to where they come from and all that, you have no respect for me at all. Which I figured he had no respect for me, but that was the end of that. So once he did that, and I had wrote a little letter on his windshield as well, so he'll know that you don't do that. And then of course, some of his family was already calling me, oh, she crazy, she this, she that, you need to figure out what's going on, all these different things. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm crazy, but y'all don't know that there has been a building of this nonsense that's been happening for years. Me and this guy was together for 6.5 years. 6.5 years of me having to deal with the nonsense. Nobody knew. Everybody thought things were cool, calm, collective. And it wasn't. Like even my mother-in-law, who was my mother-in-law at that time, she assumed that I was lashing out at her son for no reason. Or she assumed that, oh, don't talk to my son that way. A lady don't do this and a lady just do that, da, 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 da. And I'm thinking to myself, do you know how much pain and how much suffering I had to go through with your son? You know, and I understand that he was an extreme mama's boy. He was like more on the extreme side, but he knew how to play the sides. And his mom raised him to be a mama's boy. So it just made it 10 times worse. And so we got to the point where we had separated for a while, and then he ended up coming back. And at this point, I had moved to another place. And he came back around, and that didn't really last long. I had a lot of things going on with like my mom. There was like this whole thing, and my mom was sent off to prison. And I will get into that later because there was a whole thing in itself. And me and him, we just wasn't seeing eye to eye at this point. And as time started to progress, I was getting more and more depressed. I was gaining more and more weight. And I was just ready to just let it go. And so I had a part-time job. He came and stayed for a while. And one day, I'll never forget this day. He went out, and he was out to about 3 a.m. maybe. He came home, and he looks at me and he says, he don't even remember. This is the crazy part. He didn't remember saying this. I'll never forget what you did. He told me that I was one of the biggest H words that he had ever known in his life. Now, keep in mind, he had no proof of me cheating on him at any point. No proof or nobody seen me cheat on him. None of that. He talked so bad about me that night before, and he was so drunk that he don't remember none of the things that he said. He called me out my name several times. And that was my last straw. And I remember getting on my knees that night and I prayed. And I said, I don't know what I have to do, but at this point I'm tired and I just want out. I didn't want to get out of it. And so I got into bed and went to sleep. And I got up, and that morning was literally the last time I would accept anything from him, period. I got up that morning, and as soon as I got up, I said, you need to pack your stuff and leave. And I mean all your stuff. I had no emotion. And it's crazy because usually when you've been with somebody for that long, you show some form of emotion, or like there's something holding you back, like, no, don't do it. You know, you still love this person, you this, that, and the third. None of that. None of that happened for me. So, and it was to the point where I was telling him, hey, you missed this. You got to go get that, you know. So he was like, oh, you going to really let me leave? You going to really let me leave? Like, this is where it come down to. You know good well I ain't got nobody. I got to go home to my folks. What I'm going to tell them? I said, you tell them the truth. I said, you don't even remember what you said the night before. I said, you called me everything out the book, but who I really am. I said, and then you run around telling people that I cheated on you. When I was talking to somebody when me and you weren't even together. We had called it off for a good minute before you even came back into my life. So what are you even talking about? But he told everybody that I was sleeping around and just giving my body freely to everybody. And that was the rumor that went around for a very long time. And that's the one thing that really broke me the most, is the fact that I was getting so many reports of what people were saying that he told them. And they believed it. It was people that I knew, that we knew mutually, and they believed everything he said. I don't know how he was that convincing, but he was. And then when I would tell my side of the story, or try to tell my side of the story, it's like, oh no, she ain't telling you. They don't really align to what he was saying. They don't really add up. Like, they wouldn't believe nothing I would say, but everything he said, I don't know, maybe he had a way in which he knew how to tell people stories because he was good at it. And so he got his stuff and he left. We stopped talking for a while, and then I was trying to get my life back on track. Like, I really felt like I was free for the first time in my life. I felt like I was free from everything. I was free from all the hurt, the pain, the suffering that I went through for all those years. I was free from a mother-in-law that did not know how to be a mother-in-law, to be quite honest with you, because me and her relationship was not strong because she was very opinionated about things she knew absolutely nothing about. And it's sad because I went into the relationship thinking, okay, I know who I am as a woman. And if I have a mother-in-law, she's supposed to be understanding, nurturing, open-minded at least, to be able to receive something that if I'm telling her that there's a problem, instead of her jumping to her son's aid and not knowing what's going on, she automatically, oh, my son said this, so this is what it is. And she didn't realize that deep down, she was breaking trust with me. And in so many ways, I lost respect for her as a person, as a woman, because mother-in-laws are not supposed to do that. You know what I mean? Like, you advocated for your son to be married and to find a good woman and all those different things. But then he was never truly prepared for one, because he was expecting everything to be handed to him on a silver platter. And everybody had to do everything for him. He didn't have to do nothing for himself. His dad helped him get a job. He didn't even want to work. When it came to bills, I took care of most of the bills. And it's crazy because I tell people this whenever they ask me about it. And they're like, girl, you was doing what? You a good one? See, we didn't even know that was going on. I'm like, yeah, I held a lot of the weight of that relationship. The entire relationship for the 6.5 years that him and I was together, I held the relationship together. And people don't know that. They assume that I was the villain. And for so long, I was okay with being painted as the villain because I knew that when he went on with his life, people would see his true character. And I wouldn't have to say a word. You know, whenever people ask me about him, I never went slandering his name like he did mine. You know, I tried to still be positive. Hey, we just didn't work out. Things didn't work out the way I want to. But at the same time, I owe myself the opportunity to tell my story and tell my side. Because my parents just always said there's 3 sides to the story. There's his side, her side, and the truth. And for so long, so many people have been deceived by that. And for so long, people, and still to this day, there's a lot of people that still think I am the villain in that entire story. And I'm not.